Hi, I'm AnewZ and you are watching AnewZ. Here are the headlines. Russia hits Ukraine with large-scale attack. At least 3 killed and 25 injured in Kiev alone. Thousands in Tel Aviv call for an end to the war in Gaza and hostages release. Muslims worldwide celebrate the first day of Eid al-Adha, also known as the Feast of Sacrifice. Thank you for tuning in. Russia launched a massive overnight attack on Ukraine, hitting Kiev and several major cities with drones and missiles. According to Ukrainian officials, at least 3 people were killed and 25 injured in Kiev alone.
Ukraine came under heavy fire overnight as Russia launched a massive combined drone and missile assault on cities across the country, including Kyiv, Lviv, Ternopil, Lutsk and Chernihiv. Ukraine's Air Force reported that 452 Iranian-designed Shahed drones and 45 missiles were launched, with strategic bombers playing a key role in the strike. Kyiv was the hardest hit. 3 emergency workers were killed and 25 people were injured. Explosions rocked multiple districts of the capital, causing fires and damage to residential buildings, an educational facility and power infrastructure.
Usually we are staying in the corridor, and this time my wife also insisted that we sleep in the corridor. So I can say she saved my life.
We were at the parking when we heard a strong explosion. People ran out to see what happened. The firefighters and an ambulance arrived. Then missiles start coming. Thank God, our firefighters, even under such conditions, were helping people. At my apartment, all the windows were blown. It's horrible.
More than 2,100 families in the city lost electricity, and metro services were disrupted due to missile damage between 2 stations. Ukraine's rail network also reported detours due to infrastructure damage. Further west, the city of Lutsk suffered extensive damage to civilian infrastructure, including homes, schools and administrative buildings. At least 1 person was killed and 27 more injured. In Ternopil, cruise missiles and drones damaged energy facilities and injured 11 people, including 6 emergency workers. In Chernihiv, a combined strike using drones, ballistic and cruise missiles damaged residential areas, injuring 4 civilians. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has urged the US, Europe and allies to respond with stronger pressure on Russia, warning that inaction enables further bloodshed.
Please, I ask you to support all the efforts to put just pressure on Russia, to support diplomacy, political and economic pressure. Please urge for new effective sanctions against Russia and their regime for the sake of putting an end to murders and strikes, for the sake of reaching real peace, for the sake of real responsibility of Russians for the war.
The attack marks one of the largest aerial assaults on Ukraine in recent months.
The US Senate is set to move ahead next week with a bill on imposing sanctions on Russia and countries buying Russian oil and other goods. The bill, which has bipartisan support, would impose a 500% tariff on imported goods from countries that buy Russian oil, gas and other goods. Senators Lindsey Graham and Richard Blumenthal accused Russian President Vladimir Putin of trying to drag out the peace process following a visit to Kyiv.
Ukraine is ready for peace, is willing to make sacrifices and compromise for peace, is willing to stop the fighting to achieve peace. It's clear to almost anyone Putin is not remotely interested in anything that would lead to peace.
The burden is on Vladimir Putin. And right now, let's be very blunt, he's playing the United States for a stooge. Americans don't like to be made fools of. But that's what he's doing. Clearly, obviously, prolonging and playing for time, stonewalling and stalling and stringing out the President of the United States. Americans won't stand for it.
Chinese and U.S. Presidents Xi Jinping and Donald Trump have held their first phone conversation since January. The call touched on trade tensions, rare earth exports, and plans to revive stalled economic talks. Our Mahnur Magdoum has more in Beijing.
Chinese President Xi Jinping spoke with the U.S. President Donald Trump over the phone for the first time since President Trump took office in January 2025. The phone call lasted over an hour. So what did the presidents of the world's two most powerful nations talk about? The conversation focused heavily on the ongoing trade tensions, particularly the U.S. imposed tariffs on Chinese goods and China's retaliatory actions. President Trump voiced concerns over China's growing restrictions on rare earth mineral export, while President Xi expressed China's dissatisfaction on the unilateral pressure tactics from Washington. Despite the tensions, both leaders acknowledged the importance of economic interdependence. They also committed to sending high-level delegations to open dialogue, with the first delegation to visit Beijing within weeks. A Chinese delegation is also expected to visit Washington mid-July. They also agreed to reopen direct channel of communication between senior officials in an effort to manage future tensions. The phone call concluded with tentative plans for a possible in-person summit later this year, signaling a fragile but deliberate effort to stabilize relations. Manu Masoon, AnewZ, Beijing, China.
Head of the UN's nuclear watchdog, Rafael Grossi, led a team of inspectors to examine past nuclear sites in Syria. The trip follows an agreement reached with interim Syrian President Ahmed al-Sharaa, who granted the UN agency immediate and unrestricted access to sites relevant to clarifying the country's past nuclear activities. Grossi shared the news on X, calling the visit a critical step towards resolving outstanding issues. Anti-government protesters took to the streets of Tel Aviv, demanding an end to the war in Gaza, calling for a political resolution of the conflict. Meanwhile, right-wing supporters gathered in Jerusalem to show support for the government.
In Tel Aviv, thousands of protesters gathered in Rabin Square on Thursday, demanding an end to the ongoing war that erupted after the deadly Hamas-led attack on October 7th.
We are holding a protest here when the first call is to end the war. This is a political war. It doesn't provide any safety or security, not to our soldiers, not to the hostages, and also not to the people in Gaza. It's purely a political war, and we are standing here together in Rabin Square when Prime Minister Rabin was assassinated, calling for the end of the war, because everything is connected to everything. And once this war ends, we can start rebuilding Israel and the region.
Demonstrators called for a political resolution to the conflict and voiced frustration over the government's handling of the crisis. Protesters marched through the city streets, lighting smoke flares and clashing with police. Security forces intervened to disperse parts of the crowd, forcibly removing some demonstrators as tensions escalated. Meanwhile, a pro-government demonstration was held outside Israel's Supreme Court in Jerusalem, organised by several right-wing groups. Supporters gathered to back the Israeli government's policies, including judicial reform. The rally was attended by several members of parliament.
Across the globe, from Mecca to Paris, Istanbul to Sarajevo and beyond, Muslims gathered in the early hours to mark the sacred day of Eid al-Adha with communal prayers.
As dawn broke across continents, Muslim communities from Asia to Africa, Europe to the Americas came together to welcome Eid al-Adha. In cities large and small, worshippers filled mosques, united in prayer, remembrance and celebration. The day unfolded with a blend of joy and devotion as families embraced age-old traditions and shared heartfelt hopes for peace and renewal. In the Iraqi capital, Baghdad, people of all ages came together in unity. Among them, 18-year-old Banin Haytham shared a heartfelt message to the broader Islamic community.
We congratulate the Islamic nation for Eid al-Adha. May God protect us and protect the Islamic nation. May you be well every year and in good health.
In Egypt, crowds outside mosques reflected the spirit of celebration. Balloons, families and food vendors crowded the area outside Cairo's mosques, bringing colour to the sacred morning. Amid the celebration, Ahmed Saad described his family's cherished traditions.
On Eid al-Adha, we start the day by waking up early. All the family, we all go out for prayers. Then we release ourselves like the pilgrims present at Arafat. We ask God Almighty to be among the people of the sacred house in the coming years, God willing.
In Amman, Jordan, as in many parts of the world, the joy of Eid was mixed with grief. For many, the suffering in Gaza weighed heavily on the day's joy.
By God, this Eid is different from all other holidays. It is true that it is a sad Eid for us. Eid has come upon us, and it is a sad Eid because of what is happening to our people in Gaza.
Eid al-Adha, one of the most sacred festivals in Islam, is observed by nearly 2 billion Muslims around the world. From major cities to rural communities, the day is marked by communal prayers, acts of charity and the ritual of sacrifice. While customs may differ across regions, the essence of the celebration is shared: faith, compassion and solidarity. It is a time of spiritual reflection and a universal call for peace and unity.
World leaders, scientists and activists are set to gather in Nice for the United Nations Third Ocean Conference. The event in France is meant to address threats to the seas, from plastic to climate change.
The world's oceans are under threat from climate change, plastic pollution and rising sea levels. Now the United Nations is hosting its third ocean conference in Nice, France, aiming to find global solutions.
The ocean is not doing very well, to be completely frank, and not all countries are equally equipped to deal with sea level rise. I mean, in the global north, we have resources, we have capacity to protect the coast. In small islands, in the middle of the Pacific, there's no other options.
Oceans cover over 70% of the Earth's surface. The ocean is a key provider of vast resources and biodiversity. It's an important enabler of trade and an essential link between countries and human communities. However, it is now being threatened by multiple pressures, and pollution and overfishing are pushing marine ecosystems to the brink.
We have a tendency of using our ocean as a dumping ground. 80% of the pollution that we find on the ocean actually comes from land. A lot of this, of course, is plastic.
This year's summit will push for stronger ocean protections, more financing for marine conservation, and better use of marine science to help shape policy.
The picture is not great, but I think there are solutions. And what we know is that the ocean has a great capacity to recover. If you give it a chance, if you protect areas, if you protect key ecosystems, if you reduce some of the stresses that we are putting out there on the ocean can recover and become healthy again.
The challenge now for leaders is turning words into action to keep the world's oceans clean, healthy and sustainable for generations to come.
Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan has extended congratulations to Azerbaijan on the Kurban holiday, or Eid al-Adha, for the first time. In a post on X, he congratulated the Republic of Azerbaijan and its people on the occasion of Kurban Bayram, using the holiday's name in Azerbaijani. He wished peace and prosperity to both nations. Azerbaijan's ambassador to the UK has rejected claims that one of Armenia's wealthiest men is facing a kangaroo court, pointing to recent international legal rulings that support the legitimacy of the proceedings.
Ruben Vardanyan, an Armenian oligarch, is currently detained in Baku facing 42 charges related to war crimes. His son recently called the trial a kangaroo court. Azerbaijan's ambassador to the UK, Elen Suleymanov, rejects these claims, saying that the process is legitimate and backed by rulings from the International Court of Justice and a UN Human Rights Panel. He points out that the court proceedings are open to the public, televised, and that Vardanyan has full legal defense.
Mr. Vardanyan is being tried on a very clear accusations of committing war crimes, managing and organizing and financing terrorist activity plus armed groups. Now, this all is not just our accusations. All the claims about so-called kangaroo court and things like that were dismissed summarily by the International Court of Justice very recently, about 2 months ago, and by the UN High Human Rights Council's group on arbitrary detentions, which completely dismissed all these accusations. What they said was that the due process is being followed, that Mr. Vardanyan is being tried on a very clear and obvious accusations, and that the court is being conducted very much along the principles and guidelines and rules of international law and Azerbaijani legislation. Now, if you follow the court hearings yourself, you could actually, court proceedings are very open. They are not closed. You could see them on TV. People followed. You could see how open it is, that he has his defense.
Suleymanov adds that Vardanyan was parachuted into Karabakh from Moscow, describing him as an oligarch who supported separatism, financed terrorism, and threatened Azerbaijani officials. He also notes that Vardanyan is sanctioned by Ukraine for supporting Russian military actions. While understanding the emotional reaction from Vardanyan's family, Suleymanov insists the court process must continue. On why the trial has lasted this long, he says the trial has taken over 550 days because real legal proceedings take time, not like Soviet-era show trials, and adds that it's Vardanyan's own legal team that has repeatedly asked for more time and resources. American political analyst Michael Doran has weighed in on the case of Ruben Vardanyan, posting on his X account that Vardanyan made billions in Russia as a crony of Putin and was parachuted into Karabakh to serve as a rival to PM Pashinyan. He also accused Vardanyan of using the Aurora Prize to manipulate high-profile Americans, naming George Clooney and Samantha Power. Ruben Vardanyan founded Russia's Troika Dialogue Bank and was a major figure in Moscow's financial sector, also supporting Armenian interests. An investigation linked Troika Dialogue to a large money laundering operation benefiting Vardanyan and his family, though he denies wrongdoing. In 2022, he gave up his Russian citizenship, moved to Karabakh, and became state minister of the unrecognized Nagorno-Karabakh Republic. Azerbaijan accuses him of funding illegal armed groups there, while experts say his move aligns with Kremlin interests in the South Caucasus.
Who is Ruben Vardanyan, who stands accused of terrorism, financing armed groups, and other serious offenses, and how did he become entangled in such allegations? Here are the details.
Vardanyan's court hearing, presided over by Judge Zeynal Agaev on January 17th, addressed accusations ranging from terrorism to crimes against humanity. According to the Azerbaijani State Security Service, these charges stem from his alleged involvement in funding and organizing illegal armed groups operating in Karabakh. Best known as the founder of Troika Dialogue, one of Russia's premier investment banks, Vardanyan also carved a reputation as an advocate for global Armenian interests. His career trajectory has taken him from Moscow's financial elite to international headlines. Vardanyan's impact on Russia's economy was profound. Under his leadership, Troika Dialogue became a cornerstone of Russian finance, and he served on the boards of major companies like Kamaz and Volga-Dnepr. His work extended to the Skolkovo Innovation Center, a flagship project in Russia's bid to modernize its economy. The Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project, OCCRP, revealed that Troika Dialogue facilitated the transfer of billions of dollars through a complex network of offshore accounts. These transactions reportedly benefited Russian oligarchs and government-affiliated entities. Although Vardanyan has denied direct involvement, OCCRP's investigation paints a picture of a financial ecosystem intertwined with Kremlin interests.
Vardanyan and his family were among those who received money from the laundromat. More than $3.2 million was used to pay for his American Express card, went to accounts belonging to his wife and family, and paid school fees for his 3 children in Great Britain. Asked about these sums, Vardanyan said the offshore companies Troika created serviced his own companies in addition to the bank's clients.
In a dramatic shift, Vardanyan renounced his Russian citizenship in 2022 to avoid Western sanctions. But Ukraine included him on its sanctions list for providing logistical support to the Russian occupation army. Right after denouncing his Russian citizenship, he relocated to Karabakh, assuming the role of state minister in the so-called unrecognized self-proclaimed Nagorno-Karabakh Republic. He positioned himself as a visionary leader focused on the region's development amid escalating tensions. The timing of Vardanyan's move has raised suspicions. Analysts argue that his presence in Karabakh coincided with Russia's strategic interests in maintaining influence over the South Caucasus. Vardanyan has faced accusations of being a Kremlin-installed figure aimed at undermining Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan, who has pursued more pro-Western policies. These claims are widely discussed in geopolitical analyses, including reports by Stratfor and the Moscow Times. During his tenure as state minister, Vardanyan reportedly facilitated the operations of illegal armed factions. According to Azerbaijani security services, he facilitated the funding and operation of these groups, contravening international and Azerbaijani law. His activities have been a focal point in Azerbaijan's legal and diplomatic efforts to reassert control over Karabakh.
Based on the collected evidence, reasonable suspicions have arisen that Vardanyan Ruben Karlenovich, born in 1968, currently a citizen of the Republic of Armenia, committed the criminal acts under Articles 214-1, financing of terrorism, 279.3, participation in an armed formations or groups, which are not provided by the legislation, and 318.1, illegal crossing of the state border of the Republic of Azerbaijan, of the Criminal Code of the Republic of Azerbaijan.
Vardanyan's arrest on September 27, 2023, marked a turning point. Azerbaijani forces detained him while he attempted to cross into Armenia, citing substantial evidence of his involvement in terrorism and other crimes.
A global pledge to protect the world's disappearing glaciers was signed in Dushanbe. The first high-level conference on the melting of glaciers gathered more than 2,500 participants from 80 countries. The Dushanbe Declaration calls for urgent global action to slow the phenomena and protect water supplies. The plan outlines emission cuts, greener production, and stronger monitoring systems. Tbilisi Mayor Kaha Kaladze has announced he will run for mayor again in the October local elections. Speaking to reporters, Kaladze called opposition groups radical and said whether they take part in the election is not important, setting the tone of the campaign. Kaladze, a former football player, was first elected mayor in 2017 and re-elected in 2021 with some 55% of the vote. He is confident he will win a third term.
Stress how important it is to have
Georgia has officially launched its first modern dry port near Tbilisi, aiming to boost cargo flows across the South Caucasus and Central Asia. On the significance of the newly opened port, we're talking with Vakhtang Maisaya, head of geopolitical research at the Georgian Strategic Analysis Center, coming to us from Brussels. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, officials say the port is meant to not only serve Georgia's seaports, Poti, Batumi, and eventually Anaklia on the Black Sea, but also be a hub for international shipping, most notably for cargo from China via the Middle Corridor. How significant would you say this dry port is for international shipping?
Well, thank you very much for having me for your audience. I would like to just congratulate Azerbaijani and all Muslim communities Quran Bayram, just about holidays, and I wish you all the best. And I will just mention that this is very important and most amicable just case, because it's like a probe and test to promote the Trans-Caspian transit corridor provisions, and of course to increase this so-called geoeconomic alliance potential, which includes four regional just about countries like Turkey, Georgia, Azerbaijan, and Kazakhstan. And of course, it's also just promote the China's One Belt and One Road incentives, which also just could be a new just about corridor, master corridor, about where the all cargo should be shipped from the east to the west. Why? Because the northern just about routes are being blocked due to the Russia's aggressiveness war against Sudan and Ukraine, and third case. So the southern corridor dealing with Iranian cases also just not been just available. I mean not maritime, but about land corridor, because just about One Belt and One Road has like two main just about roads, maritime roads, and of course they have also land roads corridors, and of course the main one of the important just about gateway and to just corridor transit routes also remains Trans-Caspian, this transit corridor, and of course in that case launching the new dry port, which also should be set for the two already active Georgian seaports, but in future will be also just serve in promotions of the just new Anaklia seaport, about deep seaport, will be about a very interesting and most promotional case. And I guess it's also indicated about successful geoeconomic case study introductions at our region. I mean South Caucasus region, as well as the Caucasus region, because just about Georgian academicians, Professor Vladimir Popova, he introduced very interesting just about geoeconomic, geopolitical slogan. He identified about Caucasus Central Caucasus, just about idea about connecting about South Caucasus with Central Asia, and the new conceptions also becomes vivid and also exploited in truly way by introducing and just launching this Georgian first dry port case.
Well, you've covered it pretty well. Thank you so much for joining us and providing insight.
Thank you very much.
Afghanistan and Kyrgyzstan have announced a new partnership to tackle the climate crisis and protect endangered wildlife. The agreement was reached on the sidelines of an international environmental summit in Kyrgyzstan. Tamim Bahiz has more on that in Kabul.
In a major step toward regional environmental cooperation, Afghanistan and Kyrgyzstan have agreed to work together on climate action and wildlife protection. The announcement comes after a high-level meeting on the sidelines of an international environmental conference. The Director General of Afghanistan's National Environmental Protection Agency met with Kyrgyzstan's Minister of Natural Resources during the Global Snow Leopard and Ecosystem Protection Program conference held in Kyrgyzstan. During the meeting, both sides expressed the urgent need for joint action to tackle climate change and protect endangered species like the snow leopard. They agreed to form a joint committee to follow up on shared environmental goals and expand bilateral cooperation. The talks also touched on Afghanistan's planned participation in the upcoming COP30 conference. Kyrgyzstan expressed full support and both countries reaffirmed their commitment to conservation and sustainable development. Afghanistan's delegation thanked Kyrgyzstan for its hospitality and praised the country's leadership in organizing the event. This meeting marks a significant step in building stronger environmental partnerships across Central Asia. This is Tamim Bahiz in Kabul for AnewZ.
The South Caucasus' biggest digital and gaming event kicks off this weekend in Baku. From globally renowned studios to student developers, Game Summit 2025 is where creativity, technology, and opportunity converge.
Game Summit 2025, the region's biggest celebration of gaming, digital culture, and creative industries, will take place from June 6th to 8th at Seabreeze Resort, Baku. The annual festival brings together global and local giants including Solar, Epic Games, Garena, alongside support from the Azerbaijani Ministry of Culture, IDDA, and the Embassy of Japan. Kicking off with an international business conference on June 6th, the event will spotlight trends in game development, gamification, and the export of local creative talent. Gamers can compete in esports tournaments, visit developer and publisher zones, and enjoy a colourful cosplay festival and K-pop performances. A bustling market zone will offer collectibles and exclusive merch.
I think it's great for Baku that the starting point is here with the Game Summit. I mean, it's been well represented, a lot of great turnout today, and I think there's huge opportunity in this country in regards to not only talent but emerging talent and new talent coming into play. So I think they're doing a great job promoting this environment. There's a lot more to be done and a lot more opportunities to be had, but I think the future looks really, really bright for gaming and all of the associated areas as well within the environment.
So we've seen what the film industry has been capable of doing, and we've seen the cultural impact it can have in terms of translating the messaging, right? Gaming is here to complement and enable the creator economy. So it transcends media. It's not just films and not just social media. Gaming is cross-sector, right? So it's cross-pollination. And the reason the government should be supporting the creative economy, and more importantly, the gaming industry, is because it's a $600 billion industry. Azerbaijan is perfectly positioned to be that regional hub that attracts the foreign investments and the studios.
But Game Summit is more than just entertainment. It's a launch pad for the next generation of industry professionals. Career consultations, mentorship sessions, workshops, and speed networking will help students and enthusiasts connect with the industry's top players.
And finally, in the world of sports, Uzbekistan secured their first ever FIFA World Cup spot with a goalless draw against the United Arab Emirates on Thursday. Uzbekistan goalkeeper Utkir Yusupov's 6 saves won his team a priceless point to proceed with one game of the qualifiers remaining. The result guarantees Uzbekistan's debut at the tournament next summer in the United States, Canada, and Mexico. Fans took to the streets of Tashkent and other cities to celebrate their team qualifying for the World Cup for the first time since independence in 1991. Well, that's all we have for you for now. Thank you so much for watching, and do stay tuned to AnewZ.